Welcome to the second 2015 SGA Presidential and Executive Vice President debate. My name is Gary Swigan. I serve the university as Associate Vice President for Enrollment Management. I also happened this semester to begin as one of the faculty staff advisors, and I'm delighted to be here to moderate this debate. Today's debate, for those of you that were here on Tuesday, will follow a relatively similar format. We're going to plan on about roughly 45 minutes of questions that will be posed alternatively to each team, some of which will allow for rebuttal, some of which won't, and I'll make sure that's clear at the outset of each question. We'll then segue into roughly 25 or 30 minutes of questions from the floor, and we've got a handheld mic that I'm sure somebody will be, thank you, getting around. And the ground rule there will be, there isn't really a ground rule. You can certainly address both teams or you can address one or the other. But if you address one or the other, we're going to give the other team an opportunity similarly to provide a response. I want to compliment, number one, both of the teams that are running. Not only for the courage that it takes to run and to sit up here in front of their peers and across from one another. You know, that's really putting yourself out there. And I know that regardless of how things come out, YSU is certainly a winner for their service. On Tuesday, I sat through most of the debate, which I did not moderate. It was the first one that I had seen here at YSU. I was very, very impressed with the way all of you, and I suspect this is largely a different audience, but some of you may be sitting through your second debate. But really the decorum and the respect that were exhibited was outstanding, and I'm sure that we can expect nothing less today. As you may have seen, as was the case Tuesday, we just flipped a coin. We actually gave a couple of different choices. We're going to give a question here at the outset that both teams will have the opportunity to address. We've also let them know here at the outset that there will be a closing comment statement opportunity. So the coin toss basically gave the winning team the opportunity to choose their position either at the end or at the beginning, and then the other team had the chance to select where they wanted to be for the other question. So the team of Orr and thank you. Well, no, I know that part. Schriner, I wasn't coming to my head. They won the toss. They have elected to go at the end during the closing comments. So our other team of Chretien and Andrews, they have selected to go second for the first question. So we will be starting here on this side. So I'm sure you all know the candidates by this time, but just to make sure, if any of you are at your first and you haven't really been too engaged until right now, we've got in alphabetical order, presidential candidates Nick Chretien and Ashley Orr, and executive vice presidential candidates Ciara Andrews and Schriner-Briggs. So thank you for being here, and I'm sure we'll have an enlightening next hour or so together. So the first question we're going to pose to the presidential candidates specifically, and again, there will not be a rebuttal for this particular question. The question is simply this, and you'll have 2 minutes. Again, Ashley will begin and Nick will follow up. The question is that while your platforms, I'm sure, are well documented, and some that are sitting in here probably have read them and know them very well, I don't want to assume that everybody is as familiar with your platform as you no doubt would be. So please take 2 minutes to outline your team's platform and major priorities if you are elected. Ashley.
Hello, thank you everyone for coming. The best way to outline Jacob and I's platform is ultimately by a value that we share, which is that your voice is our actions. Our platform is broken up into 2 key areas. The first is some continuation of past initiatives that both he and I have been very involved with and that we care about. And then the second, of course, is some new areas of emphasis or innovation that we want to bring to SGA as your executives next year if we're so lucky to. Under areas that we want to continue on, it's the Student Academic Success Initiative, which will really help students graduate in 4 years and have wonderful academic success here while at YSU. We also want to continue to robustly fund and support student organizations. So not only sending money their way, but also support by attending their events and then advertising for those. We care a lot about campus amenities. I know several students here have used the water bottle refill stations on campus, and we want to continue in that way, where students at YSU's campus can save money by using the on-campus amenities, and they really feel at home here on campus. Under new areas of emphasis and innovation, we really want to focus on getting our general body out on campus and engaged with our students and our student organizations. We care about motivating them and putting them in touch with you as students. Also, we are focusing on student organization startups. I'm sure you guys are familiar with President Tressel's goal that next year 5,000 Penguins will be in student organizations. In order to achieve this, the current number of student organizations would have to acquire an additional 40 members each, which we think is something that would pose a challenge to the current 180-some organizations on campus. Thus, we're bringing forth the idea of student organization startup funds. This will allow students with an innovative idea and a desire to lead a new organization to get off the ground and give SGA an opportunity to incubate them. We're also advocating for an on-campus app for your smartphone to unite the platforms for you.
Thank you. Okay, Nick, you are on the clock.
All right. Well, our plan was gathered, the basis for our plan, which is accountability, capacity, and engagement. We're going to elevate all three of these things. When we brought our plan together with all this input we received from both members of student government and non-members of student government, we came up with steps of how we're going to elevate all three of these things. With accountability, we're going to have weekly work plans for each and every member of the executive board. With that being said, you're going to be able to see as students what your student representatives are getting done on a day in and day out basis. We think that's a very transparent solution for all students to know what is getting done. In addition to that, we're going to evaluate positions and see if we can add any additional responsibilities to find permanent solutions for problems that we've had Band-Aid solutions for this year, I guess. For capacity, we're going to have a clear path of communication with all administrators. Over the summer, in our first 30-day plan, we outlined that we're going to talk to all administrators, become familiar, and just have these conversations started in the summer. And then we're also going to leverage additional funds along with adding representation to the student government body. This would be through 4 additional non-voting members, 3 to freshmen, so that we can hopefully have all colleges represented, and 1 to an international student, an idea that was brought up this year but was not followed through with. This is because international students are usually underrepresented. And then we're going to elevate engagement. We all have smartphones here, laptops, we're all connected to the internet. We've had temporary solutions to marketing problems, but we have permanent solutions listed throughout our plan to solve them. In addition to that, we want to share student concerns with city officials. I've had experience this year doing that on university affairs, and we intend to continue to do that. In addition, marketing is a big thing. I brought that up many times. We want to have a more collaborative approach with downtown. We can't control where the events are going, but we want to keep those conversations going. And then the first 30 days it's okay. Just an outline.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so you get a little sense of the method to our madness in not allowing a rebuttal on the first question. The reason for that is the second question, which will go to the Executive Vice President candidates. And we will now start with Ciara and then go over to Jacob. And the question for you is, having heard and no doubt read your opponent's platform, please take your 2 minutes to outline how you believe your platforms chiefly differ from one another. And then actually, each side will receive, after these answers, a 1-minute rebuttal opportunity. So, Ciara, you are on the clock.
All right, how I feel that our platform differs from our opponent's platform is that our platform is measurable and it's accountable to the students and to the other members of the student government body. We have definitive plans in line to get our goals done. We want to increase accountability, capacity, and engagement. And as Nick just outlined, we have steps to get those things done. We also have fresh ideas, I feel, things that have not been mentioned in the past, and we really want to see the students move forward with these things. We also offer a $10K plan increase to the student appropriations budget. We feel that this will help fund student organizations, and it also ties in with the 5,000 Penguins Strong initiative by President Tressel. If there are more students involved, there's going to be a need for more funds. So this $10,000 is going to aid in that as well.
Jacob, on the clock.
So our platform is chiefly different because we tend to think that the mottos of our platforms are a bit different. So our slogan is "Your voices, our actions." Can everyone hear me?
There you go.
Okay. So our slogan is "Your voices, our actions." So that's really key because we're looking to have our platform be something that's dynamic and changeable throughout the year. We didn't want to give you a strategic plan that was 15 pages long to prescribe to you what we were going to do. We wanted to listen to you, to hear what you had to say, and then to decide what we were going to do from there. That doesn't mean that we don't give you goals that we want to achieve. So we divided them up into 2 areas. Ashley talked about that. But primarily we're concerned with garnering student support and student input and then basing our actions off of those things. Where we think they differ, or the platforms differ, is Nick and Ciara's platform kind of opens up with some criticisms of the current administration. Primarily they say momentum was lost, student engagement was lost. One, we disagree with that proposition, but 2, we also question the ability to measure that. I'm not sure how measurable of an observation that actually is. But beyond that, we tend to think that the first part of our platform, which deals with the continuation of initiatives that we're starting this year, we don't think we lost momentum on those things. We funded more student events this year than ever before. That's momentum moving forward. We've continued to push the administration to make academic changes that will help students graduate in 4 years, that will help YSU retain students. That's momentum moving forward. At the end of the day, we've continued to push for water bottle refill stations that not only save students money every time they use it, but also cut down waste, which is something that's measurable. That's something that we're going to continue moving forward on. But beyond that, with our new initiatives, we want to collaborate with all of you. So when we talk about developing an app, when we talk about a student organization startup fund, those are things that are predicated on communicating with the students. So at the end of the day, I think the biggest distinction between the platforms is that all you have to do is look at our slogan, "Your voices, our actions." We want to listen to you, we want to be open communicators, and we want you to set our agenda.
This guy's having a hard time figuring out that. Okay, here we go. So you have 1 minute. Either member of the team may rebut. This is 1 minute, and we are going to start and go in the same order, and we'll make sure that the next rebuttal question, we go in the opposite order. So whomever wants to, you are on the clock now.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Well, yes, it doesn't explicitly say in our platform that your voice will be our actions. That doesn't mean that we don't intend to implement those kind of ideas. We feel that as representatives of the student body, that kind of goes along with the job. We will always listen to student concerns, and a lot of our ideas, they depend on the student government body giving their input to implement and getting student input to implement. They're not going to just happen independently alone based on Nick and I's actions.
In addition to that, we have the idea of adding the $10,000, and while we did fund more organizations this year, we also did that at half the rate we were allowed to last year. Last year we did it at 7%, this year the max we could allocate was 3.5 to each organization. So next year we intend to allocate more funds to more organizations, and okay, all right.
And you are on the clock right now.
All right, so starting off, just on some specific points in their platform. So at the beginning it says the strategic plan is going to ensure its own implementation. But I think it's also important to note that some of the things that they talk about in that platform, such as a seat for international students, which I'm familiar with because it was me and Gabby Gessler who first brought that idea to the body, but as well as adding 3 additional freshmen to the body and consolidating positions, those all require amendments of our governing documents. So that's not something directly in their control, so they can't ensure that that's going to happen. But Ashley will talk to you a little bit about funding student organizations.
So to clarify on the point about the 7% versus the 3.5%, which we changed the financial path to reflect this year, regardless of what the percentage is, if we would be able to fund a student organization up to 7% of our budget, we would only be able to fund around 20 or 21 student organizations. And that, of course, shouldn't be happening on campus when there's over 180 student organizations. We firmly believe that all of the student organizations deserve access to SGA funds. And then further, our platform allows us to work with them.
Thank you. Okay, the next question will start with Ashley and Jacob. It will be a 2-minute answer, and there will be no rebuttal. And the question is this: please take your 2 minutes to discuss the transitions that have gone on at the university over this past year, and outline how your administration would contribute toward an improved YSU during the coming year.
So when dealing with transition, the most important thing is going to be, again, bridging gaps in communication, particularly between the administration and the students. So when things change at this university, we need to be able to be the body that is on top of those changes, that actively communicates with the new people who are coming into administrative power at YSU, and then making sure students stay in the loop too. So specifically the way that happens is by students serving on search committees. So currently this year I'm serving on a search committee for the Associate Vice President for Student Success. Michael Slavens is serving on the committee to search for the Vice President for Student Experience. That's just one concrete example of how students are going to be actively involved in the transition, but more than that, we need to take the conversations out of those committees and make sure that we transparently supply that information to all of you so you can stay in the loop.
And I think our platform and us as individuals offers something very unique to the student body. We've had such wonderful experiences already on SGA. I've been on the body for the last 3 years, and so we have relationships with the current administrators already set up, and then we're excited and motivated to set up new relationships as new individuals fill these 2 open spots. And we find that the student organizations and the students that we've spoken to along the campaign trail, their ideas will help us as we sit on those search committees if we're so lucky to do that, so that you as students are really having a voice in who's leading this university.
Nick and Ciara, on the clock.
As it was said, connecting the bridge between the students and whoever is picked to hold those administrative positions, that's really the key. Our administration fully intends to communicate the students' concerns to those proper administrators. We even mentioned that in our plan, but we intend to become familiar with the new administrators that will be taking the 2 new positions coming this upcoming year.
Yeah, and it's important to note that Nick and I are currently familiar with administration. Oh, sorry. It's important to note that Nick and I are both currently aware and familiar with current administration and have already set up those connections.
Good. Okay, the next question will go to Nick and Ciara, followed by Ashley and Jacob. Please take 2 minutes to discuss what you believe to be an area or areas where YSU is failing to capitalize on an opportunity, and how your administration would try and advance the areas you identify. For this one, again, there will be no rebuttal.
As we outlined in our plan, a deficiency in the past that has been prevalent in student government has been marketing and reaching out to the students. While we have had solutions this year that will last this year, we offer permanent solutions to those problems by assigning the additional responsibilities for marketing or whatever responsibility we see needed. In addition to that, as I said last debate, we've had these conversations with these student organizations. We've started them with our campaign trail. We don't intend to stop. Talking to the students is key, and we intend to continue it.
Another deficiency that we see is really connecting with the downtown. We see this as a great platform to really increase student activity around the YSU community in detail.
We just want to get the conversation started with the downtown businesses. We've had a few events this year and we've thought they were great. This isn't anything new really, but we just want to keep it going. In addition to that, we want to share students' safety concerns with the proper government officials within the city of Youngstown.
Ashley, Jacob.
The problem that Jacob and I see as one of the biggest issues for YSU right now is the fact that information on this campus is not streamlined. And we see that as a deficiency because it's ultimately not efficient for our students to find out campus news, campus events. You know, several different departments have different department calendars, and then this leads to a lack of engagement on campus. And we really think that we want to unite that and allow for there to be a streamlined process in notifying our students what's happening on campus, what the administration is looking at, and what your student government association is also considering.
So we acknowledge that this university offers a ton of events on campus for students to participate in. The opportunities are really boundless, but the problem is that if students don't know about those opportunities, they're not going to be able to take advantage of them. So when we talk about student apathy or lack of student engagement, that can be solved by making this information more accessible to all of you. And in our platform, we talk specifically about developing a campus app that currently has the support of President Jim Tressel that would do just that. It would unite the platforms, which include your email, your Blackboard, a calendar, an event calendar, and you can put that on your smartphones, and at that point, the information's at your fingertips. So it's no longer a problem of not knowing when or how to get involved. There are tons of opportunities, and the minute that app gets finalized and you can put it in your phone, you're going to know exactly where you want to go and when you want to go there, and that's going to be working towards solving the problem of a lack of student engagement, which we feel is the biggest problem faced by this university, and something we, as your student government representatives, can do to take steps forward and solve that problem.
And so then while serving in the opportunity as your executive leaders within Student Government Association and creating the outline with the students and with the student organization leaders for an app such as this, we will also reveal these additional opportunities to the students at YSU and bring light on the wonderful things that are really happening across campus.
This next question will provide for rebuttal, and as promised, we will start to my left and go back and forth. This is an opportunity for you to ask one another a question. So you get the chance to ask the other team a question that they will have up to 2 minutes to respond to. You will then have an opportunity to rebut for 1 minute, and then we'll flip the tables and you'll ask the question and have the last say to rebut for 1 minute. So first I'll let you ask the question before I put anybody on the clock, so I'm not going to give you much, but you got about 5 seconds to figure out what you'd like to ask them.
So I think just looking at the things that we talked about a little bit earlier, with the international student seat, the 3 additional freshmen, the consolidation of positions, how can you ensure that those things will happen if they're contingent on changing the bylaws and the constitution of SGA?
The president actually has the power to appoint 4 non-voting members to each standing committee, and that's what we intend to take advantage of. Our plan, we obviously recognize that there are steps to it that we can take now to ensure that these jobs are getting done, and that it will take a little bit longer for some things to take place. We had great ideas, but we recognize that they couldn't get implemented this year. We're going to bring them to you next year, though, if we get the chance to implement them.
Yeah.
You got time.
And in the bylaws, it says that we are allowed to set the budgets for each position, and we're allowed to really delegate the responsibility to each position to ensure that while we may not be able to change the Constitution to combine positions, we can kind of say what those positions would have.
In addition to that, when I brought these concerns to Mr. Jack Fahey, he said we could kind of cater our administration to what the steps in our platform were. So these are not unreasonable steps that we would be taking.
Good. Okay, 1 minute for rebuttal.
So just very quickly, there's a distinction that needs to be made between appointing 4 members to standing committees and appointing 3 additional freshmen to the body. Their platform says they want to appoint 3 additional freshmen to the body. That's going to require a change of our governing documents. So it's true that the administration can appoint non-voting standing members to committees, but that's not what they're suggesting. So keep that in mind. Second, when they talk about setting the budgets for executive positions, that's fine, but in their platform they talk about consolidating positions. So they want to take the Secretary of Technology and the Chief of Staff and make them one position. That's different than setting the budgets for that position. They're wanting to restructure the executive committee. So they tell you in platform that this is something they can ensure, but this is requiring changes to both the bylaws and the Constitution. It's not that they're not good ideas, it's just they can't possibly tell you that they can ensure the implementation of these changes because it's contingent on the entire body and the student body voting to change our governing documents.
Okay, Nick and Ciara now have an opportunity, and again, we'll give you the same 5 seconds to come up with a question to ask your opponents, and you will then have an opportunity to rebut their answer.
Well, you bring up the creation of an app for all students. We were just wondering, we don't think that this would be independent of whatever administration would win. Would President Trussell only move forward with this app if you guys were elected?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think that any idea that the Student Government Association that brings forth to this administration, we are very open and willing to listen to administration here at YSU. So if any student government, regardless of who's leading it, brings forth a good idea and advances on that idea, I'm sure you're going to have the support of the administration. But what I argue is that the experience that Jake and I have and the compassion and concern for the student bodies that we value, that is the unique aspect to our goals and our platform, and particularly to the specific point on our platform, which is this app, where we're not just going to look at one specific area to improve, but really let the students tell us everything that they are concerned about.
And it's not specifically that only one ticket can further this idea, but I think it's important to note that only one ticket has already had a meeting with President Trussell about it, and only one ticket has already gone to the University of Akron and met with their student government and talked about the app that they developed there. Thank you.
You have 1 minute to rebut.
While it is a fact that you are the only ticket that has met with the administration concerning these changes, you are also the only current administration that has the chance or has had the chance to do so. In addition to that, we fully support any app that would be developed on campus. After the last debate, I actually went to the IXDA meeting and talked to the students about what they would think would be great in a future app too.
Okay, this one will start with Nick and Ciara. No rebuttal on this. Take 2 minutes to discuss ideas your administration might have to ensure that YSU continues to move towards being a 7-day-per-week campus rather than just a 5-day-per-week campus.
Well, in the past, I've worked at the YSU Center for Urban and Regional Studies as a planning student assistant, and downtown at NYO Property Group as a strategic planning intern. Both of those experiences have offered me the chance to learn how to make Youngstown and YSU a live, work, play, or live, study, play type of atmosphere. Part of our plan is continuing the conversations with downtown businesses and any surrounding businesses within the Youngstown community. Our plan would allow for those conversations to continue, engage local businesses, and make people want to come here 7 days a week, whether it's for coffee, to come out on a Friday or Saturday night, or to study throughout the week.
Warren and Schriner-Briggs.
So, we have two specific goals as to how to solve this problem of turning YSU from a 5 to a 7-day campus. So that starts with student events and student organizations. I'll talk a little bit about student events. It's important to note again that there are a robust number of events on this campus. It's just if students don't know where or when they are or how to find out information that specifically interests them, they're not going to be able to attend those events. So currently we have the Activities Digest, which is a very, very long and cumbersome document to navigate through. If we streamline the information that already exists, students are going to more quickly find what interests them, and they're going to be more willing and able to attend those events. So we start by streamlining that information, and then more than that, we also continue to advertise those events. As you can find in our platform, public outreach is something we value. That's going to be an avenue in which we can advertise these events and make them more accessible to you. But now Ashley's going to talk about student organizations.
Student organizations are leading wonderful events across campus, and some of those are happening on the weekends. We hope that through the creation of Student Organization Startup Fund, we will be able to further allow new student organizations to host new events, hopefully encouraging and supporting them during the weekend days. And further, we really think that student organizations not only need funding, but they need support. And what I mean by support, they need their student government representatives out at those events. They need them advertising for them on behalf of that student organization across their social media. They need to have the cell phone numbers of the executives on SGA and of the body members. So whenever they have a question or a concern, they can reach out to them. This is something that I've already done this year. Several student organizations have texted me and given me a call while they've been working on filling out an application to receive funding for SGA. And at no point of the day am I unwilling to answer that text message. And that's something we want to motivate in our SGA body next year if we have the chance to motivate the student leaders that are representing the students to be open and available and willing to help the students lead these new events and create YSU into a 7-day-a-week campus.
We're going to do 2 more questions in this portion of the debate, which I think will make us even in terms of starting, bringing up the rear, with the exception of the closing, which we flipped on. These last 2 questions will both follow a rebuttal opportunity format. So again, we'll be even on the same number of start and stop on the rebuttals. And we're going to get a little more specific to campus on these last 2. So this one we'll start with Ashley and Jacob. Take 2 minutes to discuss any need for improved service on campus for students with mobility impairment, learning disabilities, or other types of physical limitations, and how your administration will advocate for any changes.
So we start out our platform with the fact that your voices are our actions. And so about a month and a half ago, I was walking into DeBartolo when the electricity was out, and I noticed a student in a wheelchair sitting by the elevators. That immediately upset me. Right now, we don't have an opportunity or a way to cancel classes, not only for our students with disabilities, but for our commuter students who may be driving in from 30 to 45 minutes away. This is something we value, and it's a conversation that I've started with student leaders and with individual students here across campus to see what is bothering them in regards to access to campus and access to all the areas on campus so we can improve that aspect for our students.
In that example specifically, it's important to note that if you have a physical disability and the power goes out and you have to get to a floor higher than the first, you can't. So when the university doesn't cancel classes, students with physical disabilities can't go to the classes that they're mandated to go to. That's an issue. That's a conversation we're going to have because that's not in compliance very likely with certain legal regulations that help guide universities to help people with physical disabilities. So that instance was very telling. That's something we're going to work on. We're going to represent all students. We're going to make their voices our actions.
1 minute rebuttal. Or comment, maybe would be a better way to say that. Anything you'd like to say, you got a minute.
Nick and I's administration would let students know of the resources that are currently available to them for some of these issues, such as campus security could help students get around campus if they need to do so, and the testing center if you have...
Ciara, let me stop you. I made a mistake there. That's not a rebuttal. This has to be kicked over to you to answer, so I apologize. We're going to start over. I'm going to reset. My apologies to both teams. I just lost my space there. So you have 2 minutes. Let me give you just a second to collect yourself since I messed you up, but we're going to start the clock again at 2 minutes for your answer. They'll then rebut, and then you'll have a chance to speak again. So you've got 2 minutes. Okay? Go.
Nick and I would make current students aware of the resources that are available to them here on this campus. If they have issues getting around campus, there is campus security to help aid them. And then there's testing centers if you have issues taking tests or and tutoring to help you if you have learning disabilities.
In addition to that, I worked on the University Affairs Committee. With that, we took any and all concerns to the Executive Board. We intend to do that next year and heavily emphasize the University Affairs Committee to bring student concerns to the administration as needed.
And you may not have anything to rebut per se, but you've got a minute if you'd like to follow up on anything or address anything that your opponent said.
Sure. No, we just acknowledge that those are all great ideas, and it's something that is really contingent on communication. So we do have a bunch of resources available for students. So we acknowledge the initial problem that we talked about with the disabled student. That's something that we need to work on moving forward. But with regard to the services that currently exist, yeah, it's really important to continue to educate students. And you do that specifically, or you could do that specifically through a first-year experience course, which Ashley will talk to you about.
So I had the opportunity to sit in on a meeting for the creation of a first-year experience course for our incoming freshmen. And during that meeting, working with Dr. Becker from the Reading and Studies Skills Center and along with Dr. Pallardy, who's in charge of general eds here at YSU, we discussed the essential needs of a first-year experience course. And we really believe that making students aware of these resources are essential, and then offering in that first-year experience course the opportunity to support anyone with any differences on campus, to make them feel included and welcome here at YSU.
Again, I apologize for throwing you off that first time, but you've got a minute now to either follow up or respond to anything that your opponent said.
In addition to what they said, we fully supported first-year education or experience course. My bad. I had FYE in my head. But in addition to that, we feel that our administration would bring the knowledge to the students. This was something that was not done this year with an administration that they've had a chance to serve on the administration that has not provided the students the details concerning all these safety options on campus currently. And we feel that's one of the deficiencies of the current administration.
The last question for this segment of the debate, and again now we'll start over to my right and follow up to my left, and there will be again a 1-minute opportunity. And let's close this portion talking a little bit about diversity. And I know we did a little of that on Tuesday, but it's an important topic, and I think everybody would like to hear, what does diversity mean to each team? Where do you see YSU having challenges, and what might your administration be able to do to assist in the coming year?
In response to earlier about our plan, we didn't say that we would point them to the body. We said that we would appoint them to the non-voting standing committee as non-voting standing committee members. So we would appoint 3 additional freshmen. They could be very diverse students depending on who applies for those positions. In addition to that, we will have the 1 non-voting international student appointed to as a non-voting student member.
And as I said on Tuesday, YSU is a very unique campus in that our student body is very diverse. In my classes, I have such a wide range of students in them every day. Non-traditional students, every economic background, ethnicity. We have all sorts of students in our classes, and I think engaging the students and really reaching out to them to have them feel more included in student activities is something that we would like to do.
Good.
All right, so I want to begin this with something that we heard your voices, and we want to make it our actions. Last night, Jake and I had the opportunity to be at the diversity celebration dinner, and I heard Lisa Ronquillo say that we shouldn't just celebrate diversity at events like this. We should celebrate it every day. That's what we want to do with this administration. We want to celebrate the diversity on this campus every single day by catering to each and every student, regardless of their socioeconomic background or the diversity that they bring to campus, making them feel welcome, included, and incredibly important to us each day.
And if you look at our platform, one of the things we talk about is public outreach. So an example I'll give you this year is that when Ron Brown was hired as an assistant football coach at this university, certain groups of people on campus felt uncomfortable with that hiring. Now, we didn't make a comment on the hiring, and we didn't make a comment on having religious beliefs, but we said that there are First Amendment restrictions on being able to espouse those religious beliefs, especially in such a way where it's going to make people of certain sexual orientations feel uncomfortable. Michael Slavens and I wrote a letter to the editor of the Jambar, and we just voiced that concern that everyone, regardless of their religious background, their sexual orientation, needs to be able to feel comfortable on this campus. And what I noted was that we didn't do enough of that last year. That was my mistake, but that's why I'm running again, to fix the things that I didn't do as well as I could have last year and to be better. And that's something we're going to do this year, and that's going to be welcoming diversity, that's going to make students feel included, and that's going to be exactly why we're going to further diversity if we're elected to President and Vice President of SGA.
One minute to follow up or to simply add any other comments on this topic.
We fully support diversity on campus. I've had great conversations with YS Unity and many other student organizations. In addition to that, though, where I work downtown, if I had the chance to do something and I didn't, I probably wouldn't get a second chance to do that. I do my job, and if I don't get a second chance to do that. We fully hope we get the support of you guys to do our job right the first time.
1 minute response.
So I want to respond to a specific part of our platform, which is to increase the SGA dialogue with specific groups of students. I've had the opportunity to serve on the SGA body for the last 3 years, and I think it's so incredibly important that we not only expect students to come to us, but that we, as your student leaders, go to those students and we open conversations with them. That's something that I want to continue to do each and every day next year if given the opportunity to. And to address the previous comment about not getting a second chance, I would argue that both Jacob and I, in the positions that we sit in, we have done an excellent job this year. I know funding student organizations, there's a few members here that have received funds on SGA that I've had the opportunity to work with. And I think that they would be happy about the experience they had receiving funds from SGA.
And I think more than that, you can't characterize the academic inroads that we're making in terms of helping students graduate in 4 years and increasing retention and graduation rates. We have succeeded. Yes, we made mistakes, but if they think that if they get elected, they're not going to make one mistake, that's a little absurd. The point is that we're going to do our best by you.
Thank you. Okay, that brings to a close this portion of the debate. Now we're going to open the floor for questions from you. Again, you may address both teams. You may address one or the other, but if you address one or the other, we're going to give the other a chance to respond. I will keep a clock as we've done throughout so that this doesn't get to be a free-for-all. There will be a 2-minute maximum for answers. Questions? Got one in the back right behind you there.
Hey guys, last year as executive vice president, we were running, that was your big, we want to increase communication, and your voice or actions, and being on SGA, I've realized there's been some issues, there's been positives, there's been negatives, that happens with any administration. But one thing I have noticed is communication internally has not been as effective over the years past. And I would cite, Gessler and McIntyre in 2011. I would cite, you guys last year in 2013 when you talked about, we want to have a platform that best serves you. So realistically, what I'm asking is, I've heard about an app through Ooh La La when we were freshmen. That was an app. We've talked about, Meet the Reps. That gives people more events. That didn't happen this year. So realistically, what I'm asking is, what exactly is going to be different with your administration through communication that I haven't seen?
Alright, so I want to first start off with something that's going to be different and something that's unique to Jacob and I is the energy and the compassion we bring to the student body and to Student Government Association. I can't stress to you enough, and if there's something that I want you to leave this debate with today, is to know how much I care about YSU and YSU students. And given the opportunity to lead, we will bring that energy each and every day to keep open those lines of communication and those areas of transparency, to further initiatives of the past and then create new ones where we're working maybe with an app, not something that we outsource and buy a certain company for, but rather something that our students create a vision for and our students create and maintain here on campus.
And I think more than that, to give you a specific example of something that we're doing to improve it, and I do acknowledge, of course, mistakes were made. At the beginning of this year, we had town hall meetings at the Student Leadership Summit. We felt that those were very successful. That's an initiative that we're going to be continuing on a broader spectrum this year under the University Affairs Committee, and that's very easily something that Ashley and I would continue to do if we were elected. We want to engage you as much as possible. We want to put on informal events where you can come and talk to us. We want our body members out in shirts saying, we are your representatives. So we're going to increase communication, and we're going to do that through our effort, and we're going to rely on our experience to do that as efficiently as possible for all of you.
Well, it's impossible when a question is addressed to one team for it not to become mostly a rebuttal for the other team, but nonetheless, that's what it is. So we'll go and do that both directions. So you've got up to 2 minutes to say whatever you'd like on that answer.
This isn't really a rebuttal, just sharing our platform with you. In regards to the marketing and communication problems, we have permanent solutions for we've had temporary solutions to this year. Whether it be the additional marketing responsibilities for a position or additional marketing within ourselves. At one point this year, it was 244 days between tweets. We had the temporary solution for that, but we have the permanent one next year. We will continue to talk to the Jambar. We've had great experience with them during the campaign, but they're one outlet of communication that needs to be utilized on this campus. In addition to that, it's not an isolationist approach. We need to talk to media outlets outside the university to show people outside of the university what is getting done within the university. WKBN, WITV, Vindy, whoever it is, we will talk to them and we will make sure they know what is getting done.
Thank you. Other questions? Yes, ma'am. Let's see, I saw that one first, and we'll come back to this gentleman next. Can't promise you didn't have your hands up first. Sorry, I just happened to see her.
My question's for Nick and Ciara. You guys have mentioned that there are several shortcomings that you've noticed in SGA this year. And I think that a lot of those things can be tracked back to a delegation of responsibility. So my question for you is, if you have the idea that you would want to consolidate positions on the executive committee, how would you ensure that jobs can still be effectively delegated if you have fewer people doing more things?
These ideas we came up with, they're not crazy things. We've had conversations with people who have held these positions in the past, and they said, I've only done this much work, I could have probably handled this responsibility too. They're not on bias or on base claims. In addition to that, we're going to have weekly work plans. So we as the executive board, we as the president and vice president, we will be able to see what each member of our executive board is getting done week in and week out. You as the students will also be able to see whatever position on the executive board, you will be able to see what they are getting done. So we think those are very useful things to be accountable to the work getting done within student government.
I think it's important to note too that we can't completely consolidate positions, like eliminate positions, without a constitutional change. So we acknowledge that probably this year it's going to be those positions just receiving more responsibility, and we've worked with the bylaws and the Constitution to see their job descriptions, and they fit pretty closely along with that, and we feel that that can fit into their work plans easily.
2 minutes.
I currently serve as the Vice President for Financial Affairs, and I would argue that each and every week we do have a weekly report. I know to the general body, there's a section on our agenda that allows me to report on how we're doing on funding organizations and the money remaining in our budget. In addition, student government executives meet weekly, every single week, along with the president, the vice president, and all of the executive positions to discuss what's going on in our committees, things we're hearing across campus, and any problems or initiatives that need to be added to the agenda. So these are things that are already set in place that we're doing, and we plan to continue doing and possibly even improve upon next year.
So specifically, the question dealt with consolidating positions and getting the job done. And I think one of the focuses of wanting to consolidate was to increase public outreach via social media. They mentioned that there were 244 days in between tweets, and that's true. That was a shortcoming again. We didn't use our social media as well as we certainly could have. But I think the most important thing to take away was that as soon as they brought that concern to the body, Michael and I appointed 2 young SGA representatives, Carmen Marinucci and Tyler Miller-Gordon, to do that job. So was it a shortcoming? Yes, but constructive communication helped us solve that problem. And that's why for those of you who were at the debate yesterday, we asked them, why were we not given more of an opportunity to speak constructively with you about the criticisms found in this platform? Because that's how you work to effective solutions, right? So you have dialogue, you find solutions, and you implement those solutions. So moving forward, whether we're talking about consolidating positions or appointing students to run our social media or delegating someone within the executive board without consolidating positions, at the end of the day, we can get that job done. I don't think it's necessarily true that we have to assign this responsibility to, say, the Secretary of Technology to increase our social media usage.
Thank you. Down here.
Okay, my question is directed at both tickets. What is your perspective of the ad hoc committees? I know that Sam Anderson has created an ad hoc committee that allows you to help student organizations get started, get funded, and know how to contact the appropriate people. And I'm just wondering what each ticket's opinion of these ad hoc committees is.
Since this is for both, I think it is the turn of Ashley and Jacob to go first. Go.
I've had the opportunity to serve with Sam Anderson on the student organization guidebook ad hoc committee. I value these pop-up committees that have a specific task. Then they address that task, they arise to answer the problem, they work on a solution outside of the regular meetings for SGA, and then once they have their solution, they present it to the body and then dissolve. It allows for very effective solutions to problems that may not fall under one specific committee, or further, may fall under several, and want to encourage more collaboration across committee and across the body.
There are other positive examples of ad hoc committees. So the first would do with the high school visits under the administration of Katie Carney and Michael Slavins. An ad hoc committee was formed to basically catalyze high school visits. That committee ran very effectively under Alyssa only. We sent students out to various local high schools and engaged them. So ad hoc committees serve a very specific and very important purpose in the sense that they can target our efforts and we can get the job done more effectively than if we let those issues sit in our primary 4 committees in student government.
And I think a final example that has really tied into what I've been doing on SGA is we currently have a grant writing group for the advancement of the water bottle refill station initiative. Now, working out writing a grant and working on punctuation and editing of a grant to the Youngstown Foundation is something that doesn't need to be deliberated over in a general body meeting or a committee meeting. But by allowing to have this group and this experience and this extra time outside of your SGA meetings, we've been very effective at writing 2 grants, receiving the funds on one, and we're waiting to hear back on the other one.
Nick and Ciara?
I'm fully in support of ad hoc committees as needed. I served on the Student Organization Guidebook ad hoc committee earlier this year and we got some great work done. But I do recognize that the part of our plan is making sure we don't form ad hoc committees when they're not needed. This was just a note added to make sure that we keep the work delegated to the proper committee as needed. It is ad hoc committees are needed in some situations where you need to meet after, where you need to talk about punctuation or whatever after the meeting or at other times. But in general, we support them, and we also support following the bylaws as it pertains to delegation between the proper committees.
Other questions? Got one down here.
Hello. So this question is for both tickets, but I guess it's kind of geared towards Orr and Briggs. Jake, you mentioned that some concerns, you seemed a little upset that concerns that were mentioned in Nick and Ciara's platform weren't brought before the body, and there wasn't enough discussion. But one of the concerns that I especially had, and I did see it mentioned in Nick and Ciara's platform, was this rushed bylaw discussion. That the fact that student government and that you and President Michael Slavens brought forth a bylaw amendment directly related to our own election process right before the election started, at a meeting when we didn't really have enough time to discuss these changes. I know you mentioned in Academic Senate a bylaw or some kind of change was rushed and you didn't feel that was appropriate. What would you do next year to make sure that there's more communication? Because as I understand it, an executive member of student government didn't even know what was changed concerning our own election bylaws. So what would you do? And that's my question.
So Eric, fair to say that's really directed first at this team and then we'll let them. Okay.
So to clarify, so you're asking what we would do to communicate and then basically amend the way that that situation was handled? Is that fair? Okay. So when it comes specifically to the bylaws, we'll just have that conversation at the beginning of the year. I think for the people who are privy to what's going on right now with the Elections Board, there's not a lot of satisfaction, and that's because there's not a lot of integration between the advisors and the Elections Board as is. So what Michael Slavens and I were proposing was that we wanted to integrate our advisors with the Elections Board more concretely so we avoided the problems that are currently manifesting with this election. Now, it's fair, perhaps there wasn't enough discussion allowed, but there are 2 things to consider. The first is that next year, to amend that problem, we would start the conversation earlier. We would make it more robust over more meetings, build, I guess, a more comfortable consensus with change. But the second response is that this is what I said at the first debate. It was put to a vote. Michael Slavens and I did not force anything on anybody. You could say that we should have allowed for more discussion, but at the end of the day, it fell under the purview of the student government body to make a decision. If the body felt like there wasn't enough discussion had, then they wouldn't have passed all but one amendment that we proposed. But oddly enough, all but one amendment that we proposed was passed by the body. So some people might have some problems with the way that was handled, but the overall body didn't because they passed most of it. But to amend that going forward, we would simply start those discussions earlier because I think they're important discussions to have.
You good?
Yes.
Nick and Ciara?
A fact to note is that the one amendment that we voted down was the main topic of discussion. There were a lot of good ideas brought to us in this whole bylaw change, but the body did speak and we voted down the one that kept purely students representing all students on the elections board. In addition to that, next year we would bring this forward to these students earlier. We want to hear the body's voice, and we would just bring it to the body in a more organized fashion, and that's all I can really say.
it's important to note that they mentioned that this was an issue in the previous election, and that's why they wanted to change the bylaws. So they've known that this was an issue, and Nick and I feel that we wish that this would have been brought to our attention sooner and that the amendments would have been passed sooner.
Other questions? See one in back? Coming your way.
Hi, my name is Angel Feather, and my question is directed at Nick. I live about 35 minutes from campus, and a lot of your platform deals with integrating businesses with downtown, and a lot of your ideas are based on downtown. How does that benefit me? I mean, I've been on campus, this is my 3rd year here, and I've only been to downtown maybe less than 5 times. How does that benefit Youngstown State as a university?
Well, we do recognize that downtown was a part of our platform. That was only one part of it. We do want to emphasize connecting the two, but as we said, part of our plan is allocating $10,000 back to the student organization allocation budget. People have said that we're funneling money straight to downtown, but that's just not the fact. If you have events on campus, there's a chance that your organization can receive $10,000 of those dollars on campus. I started just like you. I was a commuter, and I just love the things going on here on campus and here downtown, and that's why I moved down here. We hope that your organization, whoever it may be, that you do apply for funding to have events on campus at your convenience, and we appreciate your feedback.
Jacob and Ashley?
As candidates for the YSU Student Government Association, we need to primarily be focusing on the students, not necessarily integrating with downtown. Although it is true that if the majority of students wanted that sort of focus and that sort of integration, that's something that we would be pushing to do. But if we live on a campus that's primarily commuter, like Angel who asked the question, then maybe that shouldn't be our focus. But it is very important to tailor what we're going to try to do to student needs. And part of that is keeping students on campus and helping to improve the organization's visibility on campus, to help them have their events on campus. Because if we can make campus more robust, other things are going to fall from that. But our primary purview is to help students on this campus.
And I think that our platform really stresses a focus on YSU. And just like they brought up earlier regarding the app, that it's not unique to our platform or to us, the change in the addition of the $10,000 is also not unique to their platform or to them. We can also do that, but we can extend that beyond by petitioning and lobbying administration to increase our student organization budget. Further, we can work with student organizations and train them how to fundraise so that they not only have access to that extra $10,000, but to much more. I think a good example would be that in the case next year, 100 student organizations receive funds from SGA. That means that each of those 100 student organizations might receive an additional $100 in their appropriation. Or we could work with those student organizations, teach them how to fundraise, support their fundraisers and advertise for them, and allow them to lead a very successful fundraiser, such as the Ugandan Water Project's 5K fundraiser at Chipotle, where they raised $950. This was something that the current administration advertised on the SGA Facebook and their social media. I think it's more important that we support student organizations' fundraisers and their events, and we can look at adding funds in that way.
Other questions? First hand I saw was down here, and then we'll come right back to the back.
Hi guys, I'm Taylor. I'm a journalism major and senior. I'm actually currently on the SGA potty, but I have a question. So just by talking to other students, I say, okay, do you know what student government is? And they really don't know, but they say they know we fund organizations. And this is for both tickets. How would you change this mentality and kind of refocus more on not just that we fund organizations, but what else do we do?
It is Ashley and Jacob's turn to start.
So, again, this was something emphasized on Tuesday. Communication with students needs to be on electronic platforms. So if a student's not going to read their email, if they either don't have a Facebook or don't check it, if they don't check SGA's Twitter, they're not going to have access to student government. They're not going to know what it is or what we do. So what Ashley and I are proposing is that the very first body meeting, if we're elected, is to have student government shirts to give them out to all of our representatives and to tell them that it is imperative that they wear those shirts, that they go into their colleges, and that they communicate face-to-face with students, because that, more than anything, that type of interpersonal communication is going to be what really connects students to student government, what makes us more approachable, what makes us more accessible, and what will help students learn what student government is and does. So we do have plans. We acknowledge that a lot of students don't know what it is that we do, but with only 40 members on our body, it's going to be hard to educate a 13,000 student campus. That being said, that doesn't mean that we're not going to do everything in our power to get people on the ground talking with students and informing them as to what student government is and what we can do for them.
And I think the natural rebuttal that would come back to that response is that we can't force our student government association members to get on the ground and to do this. But what we can do is we can motivate them. We can excite them. We can find areas that are of interest to them and let them know about the events that are happening in those areas. That's something we care about. We care about the members on our SGA body just as much as we care about the students on campus. We want to cater what we're doing to them and to the students on campus, allowing them to find areas that they care about and then to go explore those and share what they're doing with other YSU students.
Nick and Ciara?
Part of our first 30-day plan is that we talk to every member of the legislative body. With that, we hope to find their respective interests and assign them to the right committee. By doing that, they might be more excited about interacting on campus. With that, we also want to have a student organization picnic during the summer. Last year we had one for just reps, but we'd love to get the student organizations involved with the reps at an even earlier point in time. In addition, we're planning to market. We want to implement a marketing plan student government-wide, and we need to really emphasize that there are 3 other committees to do work for the student body.
When Nick and I have been out campaigning and talking to other student organizations and even other student body members, we've gotten a lot of good feedback as to ideas as ways to get students more involved on campus. And those conversations are ongoing, and we want to continue working with them. Nick and I have not had an opportunity yet to work as extensively with them as we want to, but those are conversations we're going to continue.
Thank you. In the back?
Okay, my question's for both tickets, but are you able to tell me 2 to 3 ways that you plan on bettering academics, since that's what we're here for, and also keeping the graduation and 4 years plans that Schriner-Briggs have started this year?
And we'll start with Nick and Ciara on this one.
We fully support the initiatives that were brought to the legislative body this year. We recognize that even the things taking place this year, they're not one-year processes. They've been brought to the body in years past or to different parts of the university in years past, and they're only finally taking shape this year. We fully support any of those taking place right now.
And we would be working closely with Academic Senate, which would have control over that, and we would work with the faculty and the academic senators to create ideas to help students' academics.
2 minutes.
So we'll give you 3 ways that we can do this. One's through SGA, one's through the Senate, and one deals with student organizations. So when we talk about student government, the executive vice president is also the vice president for academic affairs. That's the position I currently hold. That's the position I would hold if we were elected next year. What we've done in academic affairs and in collaboration with President Slavens is we've started the Student Academic Success Initiative, which is a robust policy recommendation for administrators at this university that, if implemented, we believe will help students graduate in 4 years and will help retain students. One of those things includes the 4-year plans that we're going to make available to students, but other examples include being able to schedule for a year, restructuring advising and implementing professional advisors that are more accessible to students, but there are a bunch of different policies that we'll continue to push. The second is through the Academic Senate, where these policies are actually passed and implemented. Now currently, Michael Slavens and I co-chair a committee in the Senate called Academic Standards, where we've already started to pass policies that we believe will help students academically. Involvement in the Senate is something that we would continue. We have experience doing it, and that's how we're going to take these ideas that we formulate in student government and help them actually become a reality at YSU.
And then regarding student organizations and student involvement, extensive academic research shows that students that are involved in student organizations perform better in the classroom. And the reasoning behind that is that they have the opportunity to meet with their peers outside of their class. They have something to do that takes time and a break from their studying and keeps them on campus, that motivates them to come to campus on a day when they might have had one class cancel. We believe that we will further their academic success in the classroom by this Student Organization Startup Fund. We'll heavily market the opportunity for student organizations, for student leaders to improve and create upon new student organizations so that there can be new outlets and opportunities for students to become involved on campus with something they care about. This will allow them to have a network of peers that they can work with both in the classroom and then on campus.
Got one down here. And I saw another hand, and that's going to be about what we can take. I think we'll take 2 more questions here.
Hi. Hi, my name is Bryce Miner. I'm a student trustee on campus. First of all, I would like to thank both tickets. You guys are both suited well for the student body, and I want to thank you for your willingness to serve the student body. Came up with a question based on Tuesday and off of today's discussion. It is well known that SGA president, vice president, and the executive board make a pretty generous stipend for the university. If elected, how would you ensure accountability to the student body and the university itself of all members who are making a salary from YSU? And that's to both parties.
In that case, we'll start over here. It's their turn to start first. 2 minutes on the clock.
So in terms of salaries and stipends, there's certainly a balance to be struck, especially because accountability is a big thing. And if you're getting paid a lot of money and you're not doing your job, that's not efficient. If you're not compensating at all, and that demotivates really highly motivated students from doing the job, that's also a problem. Certainly there's a balance to be struck. But on Tuesday, we acknowledged that the idea in their platform to cut salaries and reallocate that, that's a fantastic idea. We are not opposed to that at all. We actually were very, very happy to read that. We think that it's a very innovative and effective idea. We just want to make the point that because the outcome of cutting that salary is helping student organizations, that's something that we're focused on, and that's why we really loved that idea. So that's something that, again, is not mutually exclusive, is not necessarily unique. We would not be opposed to adjusting our salaries if it's going to help student organizations. But remember, again, it's not just about the quantity of funding that a student organization receives, but the quality, the amount of, not just the quantity, but the quality of the support we give them. So that's something that we're also going to continue to do.
Also, I think that I've had a wonderful example in Michael Slavens. This academic year, he has motivated me to be the best executive member on this current SGA body that I could possibly be. And I think the students that have worked with me receiving funds through our opportunity to fund them through our Financial Affairs Committee have found that. This is something that I want to emulate next year, something where we motivate our executive members and maybe make our general body and the student body more aware of when our executive meetings are happening with our individual members so that students can come in and sit on those meetings, because it is important that we note accountability and that we allow for these, I know you guys mentioned weekly work plans. That's something that's happening now, but the fact that students didn't know about it, that might be concerning, but we want to make sure that students know about it, and then also to continue the great example that Michael Slavin set and motivate our executive members along with our general body members.
Michael Slavins did not take all of his salary this year. He had an internship in Cleveland. He wasn't in the office. He took some of his salary out and reallocated.
Thank you. Nick and Ciara.
You bring up accountability, and in our platform, that's the first major point, really. We want to stay accountable to you, the students, and that really hasn't been done this year. While we do recognize that there are reports on committees, it's not a weekly work plan for the person performing those duties. The weekly work plan will document each and every job they do that week and will be posted online. This is no deficiency in accountability, and you will have full transparency from us as student government leaders. In addition to that, we've talked to student organizations. We've said, hey, we can ask President Trussell for $10,000 additional dollars, but we're only presenting you facts right now. The fact is we're going to be cutting our salaries no matter what, whether we get an additional $10,000 from President Trussell or if we don't. The student organizations will get additional funding regardless, and we hope to support additional events on campus and accountability to those same students.
We hope that the accountability portion of our platform will really have a top-down leadership approach. We want to motivate and have our executive board members really directive, and that will flow through to the committees and the student body members of the student government.
We have one last question right here, striped shirt.
Okay, so
hang on just a second.
Okay, so you guys' main slogan is elevate in your platform, and earlier we said that this idea is mutually exclusive. It's not mutually exclusive. This idea of doing budget cuts and funding students. So now this is questions for both parties. Please tell us why you guys would be the better ticket given that these budget cuts had been made. I mean, because then we were on equal playing grounds, right?
I'm actually going to take liberty as the moderator and stay with the same order because that will allow us to be absolutely equal when we take into account the final response. So we're going to start over here twice in a row, and then you guys will finish up. Go.
I would say something that is unique to us when we're on even playing grounds with the budget cuts is experience. I've been on this SGA body for the last 3 years. I've been involved with several initiatives and committees that have popped up and new ideas. I have served as your current VP for Financial Affairs, and I believe this experience is unique to our platform. I've had an opportunity to work with administrators and create relationships that I believe will propel us in this next academic year. Further, the experience I've had working with student organizations already has a connection and a relationship, so that when points on our platform cater specifically to students and student organizations, we can utilize those connections and really expound upon what's been done this year and increase the excellence next year.
And then just to continue on with that answer, so Ashley's very experienced with working with students, with funding student organizations. My experience rests more with the academic side of things. And if I'm reelected to be your executive vice president, I'm also going to be your vice president for academic affairs again. So being able to reprise that role is really going to help me continue to push the Student Academic Success Initiative that we started this year. Michael Slavin and I have already had meetings with Provost Abraham, with Associate Provost Dr. Ball, with Dr. Buckler, with people who are in control of these policies, with Dr. Chet Cooper, who's the chair of the Academic Senate. That experience is going to help us, those inroads are going to help us continue to push this initiative because we think it's very important that students be able to graduate, that YSU be able to retain its students, and those policies we believe are going to help YSU do that. So because of that experience and because of the continued advocacy that we're promising you, we really think that makes us unique in our abilities to get these jobs done.
It is true that we don't have the experience serving on the student government election or executive board, excuse me. But in addition to that, the role of the president is to act as the main facilitator for all the students of YSU. My past experience, I've been in strategic planning at YSU both on campus and downtown. I feel that this experience has really offered me the chance to know how to be a facilitator for all these things. Our platform offers solutions to the things that have not gone as we would have liked to see them go this year, and we can steer them in a different direction or steer them in the right direction when they're not going in that direction next year. In addition to that, to counteract the lack of experience, our first 30-day plan details what we want to do to make up for that lack of experience. So we bring to you full transparency to elevate accountability, capacity, and engagement, along with the experience with the academic side that Ciara brings.
Yeah, we may not have experience on the executive board, but we bring experience to the table from other areas. I've worked in an academic advising office for the past 2 years, so I know academic policy. I have to work with it every day with students. I've also been on Academic Senate for the past 2 years, which is one of the responsibilities of the executive vice president. And not only are we going to offer solutions, we still want to work with the students, but we're offering measurable goals that we have already set, and we want to work with the students to create what they need out of student government as well.
Well, thank you for your attention and your thoughtful questions. As we indicated at the beginning, based on a coin flip that was won by Orr and Schriner-Briggs, they have opted to go second. Each team will have 2 minutes, and at this point, you use your 2 minutes however you would like to leave this audience with whatever impression you want to leave with them. So we start with Nick and Ciara right now.
We're finally here at the end of the second debate. Thank you for everyone for coming out. Thank you, Gabby, for setting it up. We appreciate the chance to share all of our solutions to problems we've found this year and continue on great initiatives for next year. Once again, we're excited to elevate the accountability, capacity, and engagement of student government with the student body, with the community, and with anyone else who needs to interact with the student government. We will ensure that that takes place. Along with that, we will be advocating for additional funding for student organizations. We will support them along the way, and we're going to give them more money than they've received this year.
Nick and I are both very excited about the ideas that we've presented to you through our platform, but it doesn't happen without the students, and that's important to know. We need to work with our student government body, we need to work with our student organizations, and we need to work with our students. We won't be able to elevate the accountability, capacity, and engagement of student government without them. So we just want to reach out to the students.
Thank you all for coming, and we would appreciate your vote on Tuesday and Wednesday.
You're on the clock now.
So just very quick thank you for everyone in attendance, for Gabby and the Student Life Committee for setting this up, and for the ticket that's to our right, because you don't find the best ideas if you don't have extensive debate. They've been more than willing to extensively debate us, and I think that's really important for all the students here. The reason we think that ultimately we're the most qualified and why we want your vote goes back to our slogan. So it's your voice, our actions. At the end of the day, we're going to listen to you and we're going to let you set the agenda. But what we currently have in a very, very broad sense is, well, one thing we have experience. And that goes to the things that we want to continue on that we've started this year if we're elected next year. So that includes the funding that we've talked about to a large extent in this debate of student organizations. That includes the policies that are going to help students succeed academically that we've talked about to a great extent over the course of this debate. That includes an advocacy for campus amenities like water bottle refill stations. Those are going to be the things that we continue to do. We have the experience doing them, and we're pledging to you that if we're elected, we're going to continue to push for those things because we believe that they're going to help all of you in a variety of ways.
And then additionally to the experience that we bring a vision. And that vision was inspired already by your voices, and we want to make it our action. Underlining in that vision, we want to advocate for more student government members to be involved on campus for greater engagement. We want to really utilize our public outreach to make sure you know what student government is up to, make sure you are aware of what the wonderful accomplishments that YSU students are doing on this campus. We want to start a student organization startup fund to encourage student organizations. We're going to advocate for an app, and we're going to increase the dialogue that we have with our student body, because at the end of the day, we want to make your voice our actions. I think the final point that we'd like to make is that we will bring effort to the table. We will both, Jacob and I, work tirelessly to make sure that your goals are seen through. We will bring energy each and every day, and excitement and motivation. This university has treated me incredibly well. I love it, and I can't wait to make sure that next year I'm able to make you love it too.
Thank you. Well, extensive debate, having a difference of opinion, being able to express that opinion in a respectful and civil way, I think is really the hallmark.